Okay, so I've been hearing a lot of confusion about the Warlords of Draenor story on the internet, and this video is basically just going to bridge the gap between the events of patch 5.4, mainly the ending cinematic, and the events that lead us into Warlords of Draenor. Now, it's very important to note that this is not supposed to be an ultra-comprehensive guide to exactly every tiny little niche detail that happened. If you want that, the best thing to do is to read the War Crimes novel, and then also the short story called Hellscream. But anyway, let's get into the story. So, in patch 5.4, as we all know, Garrosh was taken off to the Temple of the White Tiger to be trialed for his actions. Now, also in patch 5.4, we helped this Time Walker guy called Kairos on the Timeless Isle to empower an artifact known as the Hourglass of Time. Now then, let's skip ahead to the actual trial. So, during the trial, Kairos and Chromie, who are the two Bronze Dragon representatives, start using the Hourglass of Time to basically just show events, basically to give a bit of a character reference to Garrosh and the Orcs as a people. Now, Kairos, of course, uses this Hourglass of Time to do some rather nasty business. He helps Garrosh escape, and then they create a portal. But not just any portal, this portal actually is a time portal, so it allows them to travel from current day, present Azeroth, to Draenor in an alternate timeline 35 years in the past. Now, we do know that this is an alternate timeline because there are some lore inconsistencies with our version of events on Draenor. Hell, Garrosh doesn't even exist on this Draenor because his mother was actually killed before he was born. So that's one thing, and another example is that, say, Gul'dan was the first guy to be contacted by the Burning Legion, not Ner'zhul. Anyway, so Kairos and Garrosh basically land on alternate universe Draenor, and another thing that Garrosh even says is that it's not his sky, basically alluding to the whole alternate dimension thing. Now that is basically what goes on in the War Crimes novel. Now, the reason why our Dark Portal is eventually linked to Old Draenor is because of the Hourglass of Time. Basically, bits of the Hourglass are on current-day Azeroth, and bits of the Hourglass are on alternate universe Draenor. So all that the Iron Horde actually has to do is build the Dark Portal in order to travel across the two. At least that is my understanding of it. Okay, so that's the events of War Crimes covered in a very abridged manner. Next, I'm going to cover the Hellscream short story. This is only 5 pages on the official website, so you can totally just stop the video now and read it if you really want to. But this is a bit of a TLDR of what happens. Obviously, if you want the emotion and all the real, I don't know, feels, then just go read it. But anyway, so soon enough after they arrived, Kairos made his plans a little bit more clear. He talked about taking over infinite worlds in a similar manner, perhaps hinting at his allegiance to the infinite dragonflight, but it is also possible that he is in cahoots with Rathian, as many of us previously suspected, and is planning on getting multiple hordes onto Azeroth, as many as they need, in order to fend off the impending Burning Legion invasion. Anyway, things are going to take a little bit of a turn for old chap Kairos, and Garrosh basically said that he would not allow his people, the Orcs, to be controlled by any puppet master, including Kairos. Garrosh stabbed him in the back with the Hourglass of Time and killed him. He wasn't able to transform into his dragon form or anything like that, and he was currently in an orc form so that they would be able to lay low. But yes, Kairos is now dead, and that is that. So we are now left with Garrosh being on an alternate universe Draenor with no strings attached. So Garrosh, of course, is still planning on conquering Azeroth, so what does he do? Well, he seeks out his father Grommash. Again, it's important to note that Garrosh does not exist because his mother was killed by ogres. So, yeah, for Grommash, really, Garrosh is not someone who he recognizes, and at least so far it seems like Grommash does not know that Garrosh is his alternate universe son. So Grommash is actually quite hard to convince, and initially he is unconvinced, but he decides to listen after having 4 of his warriors defeated by Garrosh, who is actually still in chains. So after this happens, they decide to head to the Stones of Prophecy. This is an ancient shamanistic location. It's very important to the orcs, and it's actually where Thrall told Garrosh about his father as well. Anyway, so while they're traveling there, Garrosh explains what he wants to do to Azeroth, and more importantly, he tells Grommash about all the sweet loot that he could get from raiding our cities after he's killed a lot of us. And I think Grommash probably liked that idea. But anyway, they reach the stones, and the shaman at the stones didn't really like Garrosh. Basically, the elements sensed that Garrosh was an outsider to their Draenor, so that just meant that the shaman wasn't particularly trusting with him. But regardless, the shaman did respect Grommash, as he was the, of course, war chief of his clan, so he let him have a vision. Now, Grommash got a vision of our timeline Draenor, and he saw lots of terrible things. For an example, he saw himself take the demon blood. He saw them forsaking their shamanistic ways, which actually shocked the elements because they were pretty amazed that the alternate, timeline version of themselves were forsaken. Of course, they may not have known or understood the whole alternate timeline thing, so they may have just thought, wow, this is in our future. This is pretty terrible. And in all likelihood, it probably was in their future if it wasn't for Garrosh. Now, Grommash saw all these things, but Garrosh even spun the truth a little bit. For an example, he said that Grommash took the demon blood because he didn't, because Grommash didn't want to risk any of the other orcs taking it first, and, because he was honorable and all that stuff. That's likely a lie, because really Grommash took it because he wanted the power and he didn't want anyone to be more powerful than him. But it's likely that Garrosh just said this to, gain more rep with him, basically, and be a little bit more trustworthy. However, as time went on with these visions, some more positive things were shown. For an example, Grommash's, his original sacrifice, and the events that, of Warcraft 3, what Thrall did, and the eventual peace on Azeroth. This is, of course, not a narrative that Garrosh likes, and the shaman was actually so caught up in joy that Garrosh was easily able to kill him before he could do anything about it. He then had his father, Grommash, pulled out of the vision before he could really see any of the good stuff. So, Grom basically just saw the demon blood, being enslaved to the Burning Legion, and all the bad crap. So, he did eventually agree to Garrosh's plan, and the first thing that they would need to do is create the Iron Horde. Now, Gul'dan is the first guy in this version of Draenor that was in cahoots with the Legion, and he's already working on making the Draenei the enemy of the Orcs. So what Grom and Garrosh have to do is convince the other clans, bar the Frostwolves, that their Iron Horde is the way to go. They of course succeeded, and then the events of the little short comic that they released a while ago, and then of course the cinematic occurred. So we enter Warlords of Draenor having Gul'dan being in the background trying to do things, but mainly having this united Iron Horde trying to get through the newly built Dark Portal, which is linked from their alternate universe Draenor to our version of Azeroth. And that is basically how the story leads up to Warlords of Draenor. A lot of people, I think, were very skeptical about the whole time travel thing, but by doing an alt universe and making things completely separate, there's no actual time travel. If you were to basically, you could essentially just view alternate universe 35 years ago in the past Draenor as another location in which there is an enemy, because the threat from this place that's apparently in the past is very real to us today. Let's just take a real-world example. So imagine if Genghis Khan's horde found a portal that would teleport it into New York City today. Well, here's the thing. Even though that's an event of the past, Genghis Khan's horde could still kill people in New York City today, and it would be a very real threat. That is kind of what they're going for here, and that's really just the explanation of the time travel, and the lore that leads us up to Warlords of Draenor. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I think it's a cool enough story, actually. They've handled it pretty well, and just let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.